Hey, Irish fans, welcome back to Irish Breakdown. I'm Vince D'Addario. I'm the football analyst here at Irish Breakdown. And with me, as always, is Brian Driscoll. He is the publisher at Irish Breakdown. Hey, how you doing? Obviously, huge game, huge week, and we want to bring you as much content as we possibly can. And one of the things that we're excited about is we are going to talk to you today about the offensive matchups to watch. We've both watched the film. We've both watched, various games. Obviously, we watched all the Notre Dame games. I'm sure Brian has watched all of the Clemson games as well.
I didn't watch the Citadel. Sorry.
Well, you're slacking. Clearly, you're slacking off.
I couldn't.
You couldn't do it, huh?
Mm-mm.
Well, the Citadel runs your favorite
if
offense.
I don't have to watch the triple option, I'm not going to watch the triple option.
That's your favorite offense.
So I was so happy when I was getting ready for Georgia Tech week where I was like, oh, I'm so glad they got rid of the triple option. I did not want to watch that.
I don't blame you, but a lot of things to keep an eye on in this game. So this video, we're going to talk about we each picked out two matchups that we're going to be keeping our eye on, and we want to bring those to you. So, Brian, why don't you start with your first matchup that intrigues you and gives Notre Dame the best chance to be successful? And we're talking about Notre Dame's offense versus Clemson's defense.
I think for me, the Notre Dame offense against the Clemson defense is the key to this game. You know, I think we saw this 2 years ago. The Notre Dame defense can play very well, hold Clemson to one of their lowest offensive outputs of the season and still lose convincingly, which is what happened in the Cotton Bowl, because if their offense doesn't get the job done. So the offense has to play well. And for me, it starts up front. The Notre Dame offensive line has to play well. I expect the tackles to play well. I expect them to go toe-to-toe. For me, the key is inside. I think when Notre Dame's offensive line is really rolling, the interior guys are really rolling. They're playing at a high level. They've been a little inconsistent the last two games. If we're breaking down the film and we're being honest, they haven't been great the last couple games.
Yeah.
They need to be at their best against Clemson. Number one for Notre Dame's offense. I just think that when you can get the inside zone going, when you can get the guards moving and with kickouts and wraps and getting to the second level with Jarrett Patterson and Aaron Banks and really establish your zones and your counters, this run offense can be really good. And then that forces Clemson to really attack the middle more with their run stunts. Their safeties have to key more on the box, like the tackle-to-tackle box, which then open up more opportunities for Notre Dame to get the ball outside. And Clemson can't be as focused on getting to the perimeter. So that's a part of it. And then the other part of this interior matchup, Vince, is they're going to try to pressure, I believe, Ian Book right up the middle with their defensive line and their stunts. They don't want Ian Book to be stepping into the pocket, which we talked about in our podcast. And so I think that's another key, that the offensive interior, the guards in the center, Jarrett Patterson, Aaron Banks, Tommy Kramer, have to be on top of their game. And then you also have to take advantage of the fact that Clemson doesn't have their best defensive tackle, Tyler Davis, and they're missing their two inside linebackers with James Skalski and Mike Jones are both hurt. So when they're a wounded animal, so to speak, Clemson is. And your best part of your offense needs to take advantage of that and dominate. And I think if they can do that, then this offense has a chance to really be good, because they're going to be able to run the football and they're going to be able to give Ian Book time to get the ball downfield and make plays.
Yeah, I can't say that I disagree with that. My first one, I'm looking at the outside, and I'm looking at the Notre Dame wide receivers versus the Clemson corners. I think based on everything that you just said, that I completely agree with, I think they're going to be bringing pressure on Ian Book. I think that's the recipe. That's the blueprint against Notre Dame right now with Ian Book at the helm. It's to pressure Ian Book. It's to make him put him in positions that he's not comfortable, right? And so he is going to have to push the ball down the field, whether he wants to or not. I think in order to be successful, he's going to have to do that. Now, if he does that, the receivers are going to have to make plays for him on the other side of it, right? And, we've heard it a million times. They can't get separation. They can't do this. They can't do that. Look, the wide receivers at Notre Dame are talented, okay? Mm-hmm. They can make plays, and we've seen it in spurts. We haven't seen it all together, right? We've seen Avery Davis make plays. We've seen Ben Skoranek make 50-50 catches and run them in for touchdowns. We've seen Javon McKinley make plays. But the consistency level of all of those guys doing it together, we have yet to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm going to be looking at. I'm going to be looking at what are those guys, and I'm referring to the starters because obviously they're going to go a little bit deeper. You might see Lawrence Keys, you might see Jafar Armstrong, Joe Wilkins, the whole group. But we're primarily going to see.
Right. It is what it is.
It is what it is. But going up against the Clemson Corners, because I do think that Brent Venables is going to put those corners on an island at times. And when he does that, Notre Dame has to take advantage. They absolutely have to. And even if they're covered, they have to take advantage. And I'm hoping that that's the case.
They left the receivers on an island in 2018, and the receivers were named Chase Claypool and Miles Boykin because they didn't respect Ian Book's ability to push the ball down. Or maybe it wasn't ability. They didn't respect his willingness to push the ball downfield. Now, if Ian Book comes out and is willing to throw the ball downfield and Javon McKinley's not making plays in those one-on-ones, if Ben Skoronek's not catching the ball over the middle, if Avery Davis isn't making plays after the catch, then it won't matter what Ian Book does. The receivers have to make those plays. Now, he has to be willing to get it out there, and then if he's willing to do that, they have to be willing to make those plays. So, yeah, it's a big part of the game, no question.
Yeah, so that's my first one that I'm looking at. And the second one, I think we're both very similar with our second one because, this particular position group is one of strength for Notre Dame, and it's one that they need to take advantage of in order to be successful in this game. And I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I think for me, we both agree that the tight ends need to be a big part of this. Right. And we both agree that, look, the tight ends are your two best pass catchers, I believe. I think that literally the two best pass catchers Notre Dame has, in my opinion, maybe it's most talented, might be a better way of putting it, is Tommy Tremble and Michael Mayer. And you need to utilize both of them. We've seen Tremble first couple games as a big part of the pass offense, and then he's kind of disappeared. I don't think it's his fault. I just don't think he's being used primarily as a blocker. He hasn't been a focal point of the offense. And then sometimes he has. Ian Book hasn't hit him. And then Michael Mayer's become more of a focal point in the pass game. Well, I think they both need to be a focal point. I think we need to see Notre Dame use them correctly. And then when they get in those, if they do, I think how they match up against the Clemson safeties. And to a degree, the linebackers, and you'll touch more on that. But I think the safeties is a big part of it because I think the Notre Dame safeties can be vertical threats in this game. I think with as aggressive as I think Clemson's going to be with their linebackers, I think we're going to see a lot of run stunts. I think they're going to attack downhill. I don't think they're just going to let the Notre Dame offensive line bring the fight to them, especially when they're missing their two starting linebackers and Tyler Davis. I don't think they're just going to sit back and say, okay, let's just let the Notre Dame team run at us, especially since Notre Dame's not a great passing team right now. But if you're going to be aggressive with your linebackers, you're not just going to leave this 15-yard hole between the line of scrimmage and your safeties. You're going to bring the safeties down. Yeah. So in those situations, I think we can see the Notre Dame tight ends on drag routes, on seam routes, on corners, on posts, hopefully some double moves. I think you'll see situations in which they're going to be isolated in one-on-ones or at least over top of a zone. And in those situations, the ball needs to be thrown. And they need to be able to do what they have to do route-wise and release-wise and things like that to get the separation. But when the ball comes their way, these are guys that don't need like a lot of separation. Michael Mayer is physically a very imposing young man. He doesn't need – and this is something Ian Book needs to keep in mind. Michael Mayer and Tommy Tremble both don't exactly need a lot of room to catch the ball. If they're single covered, in my opinion, I don't care how close the defender is, they're open. And you throw them the ball. As simple as that. And if Ian Book is willing to give them an opportunity to go make plays, I think they can make it. And I think that is the thing. If the tight ends are making plays in the pass game, that really puts Clemson in a bind because Notre Dame's going to be in their 12 personnel. They can run the ball out of that. And if you want to keep bringing 8-9 in the box, we'll just if you're Notre Dame, we'll just keep running by you. If you want to try to have Nolan Turner and Zandon Sanders cover Michael Mayer and Tommy Tremble all day, good luck. Okay, because it's probably not going to go real well for you, and I think that for me is the big thing that I want to see in this game. You mentioned the weaknesses of the linebackers right now, or I should say the fact that there's two starters out, right? And James Skalski is probably arguably the best player on that defense, and he's out, and so you've got Jake Venables taking his spot. He's a redshirt sophomore. Now, obviously, his last name he has. He should know the defense. He hangs around the dude that runs this defense quite a bit.
He should know the defense, okay? But Jones being out brings in Trenton Simpson. He's a true freshman.
Very talented, but still a true freshman.
And So at the linebacker position, you're going to be dealing with guys that they're just not used to it. They're not used to the bright lights. Let's just put it that way. And I think that can be to the advantage of Notre Dame. Now, and I said tight ends versus the linebackers because you're right. If they're going to stretch the field with the tight ends, then the safeties absolutely come into play. But in my perfect mind of this offense, Tommy Tremble's stretching them deep, and then you've got Michael Mayer coming in at that next level, and that's the linebacker level. And he can catch balls against any one of these three linebackers. I firmly believe that. And if they're going to put the linebackers I'm not part of the team. If they're going to put linebackers on Notre Dame's tight ends, that's a win for Notre Dame. And I really, really hope that they become a focal point in this pass game because I think that they can be so effective and they can force Clemson's hand not to sit in those run stunts and to do the things to stop the run game because they've got to respect the tight ends.
I think when you boil it down in this game, Vince, Notre Dame's tight ends are their two best. It's their best position group on offense.
Absolutely.
From a skill position standpoint.
Yes.
And that's, look, the running backs are talented. They have talent at receiver, but these are your two best players. And I have yet to see anyone on Clemson's roster that's playing in this game that can physically handle or run with these two tight ends. And
Agreed.
So if you're not making them the focal point of your offense, then I think that'd be a big mistake and a missed opportunity because I talked about what they can do for the run game. It takes some of that pressure off the run game. I think it also creates some opportunities to steal some yards. But also think about what Clemson's focus is already going to be. It's already going to be tackle to tackle. It's already going to be the run game. And now if you have to focus vertically on the tight ends, now you're getting yourself in situations outside with the receivers and the corners where they're in one-on-ones because you want them to be in one-on-ones, not necessarily because Clemson is able to dictate that to you. And then that sets up your first point, which is now it's the receivers have to go make those plays. But it all starts with your best play. To win a game like this, your best players at Notre Dame have to be able to play at a high level, and then they have to be put in position to play at a high level. Correct. So if the staff puts the right game plan together, which is built around the tight ends, they have to step up and play. And if they do, I just think that makes everything else tick. And I also think it will make Ian Book a lot more comfortable. I think the most comfortable he's ever looked in a big game was last year against Georgia. Who was his primary target in the first quarter and a half? It was Cole Kmet. It was attacking down the field. It was attacking the seams. It was attacking over the middle with the tight end. And that was the most comfortable we've ever seen Ian Book look in this type of moment. And I don't think Clemson has Georgia's talent at linebacker safety in this game. So that's a big opportunity. So if Notre Dame is going to win this game, Vince, they're going to need really all of that. It's not just, well, if Michael Mayer has a big game, Notre Dame wins. No, Michael Mayer has to have a big game. Tommy Tremble needs to make plays, which then sets up this opportunity to the receivers, the run game, all of it. But if you're watching this game, I think those are the matchups that are going to give Notre Dame the best success to pull off this victory.